Hi, I am going to tell you the story of Coyote Dick. I promised I would. So, Coyote Dick is a story as told to Clarissa Pinkola Estés in this book, and is passed down in the oral tradition. And since it is in the oral tradition, I would say it has more to do with humanity and our ability to actually have fun and our ability to see the humor in things and not get too heavy about it, because in this chapter we talk about retrieving a sacred sexuality. Kamala is the Mahavidya, who's related to sacred sexuality and the correction of the perversion of sex. And she's very strong this month because this is her month. It started at the first right-hand crescent after the new moon, and that didn't happen that long ago. But Kamala in general is about retrieving the holiness of sex. I'll drink to that. That's why we say, oh God, oh God. By the way, things are inverted here. So the God that tells you not to pray to any other gods and to take no other gods before me is actually the devil. And the real God, the intended, is finally getting through, you know? Finally getting through in the embodiment of God, Goddess. So we'll talk more about that. We'll get deeper into that. Like, why does she say that? Why does she believe that? Why does she believe that the religious God is not really God? The religious God is not really God. Everything's inverted here. So I'm not going to argue with you about it, but you'll find out. So this story is Coyote Dick. And then, don't give yourself a hard time for being, like, fooled and duped, because we all were. But now it's time to save your own soul. Who's going to save your soul if you don't save your own? Just like in the airplane directions. Save yourself first. You've got to save yourself first, everybody. You're not going to save anybody. No one needs saving. Least of all you. You don't need saving. Unless it's you that's going to be doing the saving. We're going to talk about Coyote Dick, but before we do, I'm going to talk to you. I want to bring this back up, and I wrote it in. Okay? The third chakra is what helps you develop your willpower. Sacred sexuality is much different than sex addiction and sex perversion. It's much different than any identity politics that we have going on. Sacred sexuality is when you get to discover your own sensual, sexual nature yourself, uninterrupted by anyone fucking you up in the head, because mental mind F's, disturbances, distort the third chakra. Mental mind disturbances, sex is bad. Mental mind disturbances, he touched you and it made you feel good, therefore you were bad. Blah, blah, blah. Those are all mental mind F's, which stands for a swear word, that distort the third chakra, because the head is our weakness. People are trying to outthink themselves out of this mess. You can't. You can't think your way out. You got to go to your heart. Go to your heart. Inhale and exhale. Go to your heart. Inhale and exhale. Ask to connect to your higher self. Connect to your higher self. Command it. I am connected to my higher self. I am so connected. My higher self is in me now, operating through me at a higher level and a higher capacity. And that's what you do every day. So, mastery of the third chakra equals freedom. We're gonna get to Coyote Dick. We're gonna get freedom is the ability to make up your mind and to change your mind. Okay? This is essential for happiness. So you have to have the ability to make up your mind. Indecision and all that. That's what this says. It doesn't say that, but it says freedom. Freedom, and then it's a line. The ability to make up your mind and to change your mind. Essential for happiness. Go forward with the life you want to live, and live the life with no regrets. How do you do that? Mastery of the third chakra. Get over the mental mind F's and the disturbances, and therefore all your thoughts about sexuality, including all your thoughts about your place in history as having some sort of greater or less than value. Last I checked, I was exactly where I needed to be. So maybe you are too. So take a look at this. Expectations and perceptions, okay, they form your reality, but they also distort it. They can distort. You could have all kinds of distortions. Like how many times have you had a boyfriend or you yourself have been upset about something because you thought that it meant this or that. Or they said this, then you're thinking, that person said this is what they're thinking, then you get all upset. Well, number one, that's needless, and number two, that's unnecessary loss of energy in a negative way to the wrong people, the wrong entities, because, loosh. But you know what? Even misdirected love, I discovered. I used to think, the unseen, nasty things that some call archons, but I think that's too generous of a word. Lower life forms in a non-physical reality that feed off of human misery and suffering and deceptively put themselves up as holy things that you then send prayers to. Everything's inverted here. But you can get mastery over your own thoughts, your own mental mind disturbances, and therefore change your willpower if we get over one very major one that we're having on this planet. And guess what that is? Sexuality! Yeah, it's sexuality. It's sexuality. Number one thing that occurred, paganism celebrated the human body. It did not do human sacrifice. That was the lie that was put there. They did not. They did not, and they did not. Neo-pagans, people who practice the craft now, pagans, actual pagans of which my genetic DNA sings the happy song to. And we just had I'm from the two hosts, the down and on, okay? So this is my whole chart of things happening on the wheel. I'm studying it. I'll bring it to a point where I can make it make sense to you. And I'll parlay it. I will actually put it up there like it's a golf ball and you want to hit a hole in one. I'm going to put it right there on the tee and tell you what to do. Your job is to hold everything together. Our planet is going to be much better off once we get right in the head about females and sex. And that includes you women. So I'm going to tell you something that you may not like, and it's this. Being promiscuous does not equal cool. You do not want to take a man's jism in. You don't know what he's eating, GMO corn, but you don't want to be doing something that is going to actually make his genetic material part of yours. Because you are what you eat. You are what you swallow. You are what you kiss. You are what you allow into your field. And then you can clear it out. You got to figure out what's not you, what's you. But that's a lot of work. So it's better to just avoid it altogether. So my book is about that. It's about really, like, I was in the adult entertainment industry. I saw the lowest of the low. I saw the worst of the worst. I saw what it was like if you were really effed up in the head when you were younger. I was there because I was working my way through school. I had no money. And as fate would have it, a woman who was a stripper answered my housemate wanted ad. It's all in the book. She answered my housemate wanted ad, and she's like, and within a week after meeting her, I got a job, and I didn't have to rent out the extra room, which I turned into my dance studio, complete with a mirror and music. And I didn't have to skip another semester of school. I had all the money I needed: books, tuition, food, rent, you name it. So, do you want to hear the story of Coyote Dick? I'm going to read it to you. Here it goes. So, Clarissa Pinkola Estés is relating a joke that she heard from a man named Old Red. Now, Old Red's wife was Willow Dean, and Willow Dean's protesting in the beginning of this, in the book Woman Who Run with Wolves, in the chapter Heat, Retrieving a Sacred Sexuality. In my book, it's on page 340. So Old Red is like, this is what he says to Clarissa. He heard this story from a Navajo who heard it from a Mexican who heard it from a Hopi. You heard it from a Navajo who heard it from Mexican who heard it from a Hopi. Here it goes. Once upon a time, there was Coyote Dick, and he was both the smartest and the dumbest creature you could ever hope to meet. He was always hungry for something, and always playing tricks on people to get what he wanted. And any other time, he was always sleeping. Sound like anybody you know? Well, one day, while Coyote Dick was sleeping, his penis got really bored and decided to leave Coyote and have an adventure on its own. So the penis detached itself from Coyote Dick and ran down the road. Actually, it hopped down the road, having just one leg and all. So it hopped, and it was having a good time, and it hopped right into a grove of stinging nettles. Ouch, it cried. Ow, 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 it screeched. Help, help. The sound of all this crying woke Coyote Dick, and when he reached down to start his heart in the accustomed crank, it was gone. Coyote Dick ran down the road, holding himself between the legs, and he finally came upon his penis, and the worst trouble you can imagine. Stinging nettles. I'm ad-libbing. Gently, Coyote Dick lifted his adventurous penis out of the nettles, patted him, and soothed him, and put him back where he belonged. And then that was the end, according to Old Red. But, Willow Dean, asked him, is that the end? And he's like, yeah, of course it is. And then the doorbell rings, and off he goes. And you can hear male voices in the past, in the not too distant distance, down the foyer and to the right where the door is and the entry. So he went and answered all of that, and she's like, you forgot to tell her the ending. What ending? He said. I already told her the story, and off he goes. You forgot to tell her the real ending, you old tank of gas, she says, and he says, okay, behind his back. He's like, well, if you remember it so well, you tell her. So he's waving her off, and he's going to answer the door. So Willow Dean looked straight at Clarissa Pinkola Estés with sparkles in her eyes, and she says, the end of the story is moral. The moral of the story is, okay, this is the moral. The moral is that those nettles, even once Coyote Dick got out of them, even though he got out of the nettles. They made his cock itch like crazy forever after. Forever since, men have had these itches that they need to scratch. So they rub up against women. That's why men are always sliding up to women and wanting to rub up against them with that "I'm so itchy" look in their eyes. You know? That universal cock has been itching ever since that first time it ran away. I'm telling you, you know, the sacred and the sensual sacred live very near one another in the psyche, she writes. For they are all brought to attention through a sense of wonder. You know, from laughter, from a moment that changes us, from the awareness that we feel deeply. It's a whistle, it's a burst of life, it's a dance step. So when we look at the natural cycle of things, just how we've been messed with, we took Samhain, which is actually the very end of summer and the beginning of the agricultural year, but at the beginning means the night. So like a moon, like a lunar cycle going, you know, we're going into the dark. We're going into the darkness. So from here until the winter solstice, it's akin to a moon cycle where you're going from summer's end to the which is like having a equinox, really. No, excuse me, I'm getting things mixed up. At 180 degree angles, you have the winter solstice and the summer solstice. Boing, boing. And therefore, when we had the longest day of the year, it was when the sun is at its height. It's called the summer solstice, which is June 21st. It's midsummer, but it's peak of light. Okay? So now we're at end of summer. Because when you go around this cycle, you get to, on the clock, on the real clock, which I'll write bigger and show it to you later, you see that we're now at a place where the spirit and the physical worlds can talk to each other more or receive wisdom and guidance from. So traditionally it was marked by bonfires. So sexuality was something that was a big part of midsummer. They would have their bonfires then too, and then couples would stream off into the woods on blankets and enjoy the fruits of their loins. And they stayed monogamous. If they had a child from such coupling, they stayed monogamous. Everybody rose the children. You had your mother, but it was an organic. It was just like a litter, not a litter, but because we've domesticated animals. If you observe wolves, there's a male and a female that's naturally more cunning and intelligent. It can help lead the people, but it's all of the pack. And it's not like it was in the Twilight series. It's not like that. They weren't stupid and selfish and human and like demanded their ways on their human brethren. No. These are animals. Animals have more of a rightness that's universally correct and follows universal laws, not human and egoically made ones. So you can't even compare the pack mind of humans with that of animals that are actually wild, because humans have been domesticated far too long. We no longer can do that. We can't. So there wouldn't be the ability for that sort of like organization to happen right now in marriages. So we still have to have a male and female committed to each other to raise children, or we have to have divorces or something, because we no longer have that ability. It was beaten out of us. I'll talk more about that later, but for now you got the idea that Samhain wasn't about the devil, it wasn't about all the scary stuff, it was about honoring the dead, but they didn't look like skeletons, and the witches, I'm a witch every single, I'm a white witch, every single Samhain. So this year I didn't go out because I didn't feel like it, but I'm still in that mode. I'm still recognizing the beauty that is Kamala, sexuality, and the original priestesses of yesteryear, of which I would like to see rise again in spirit, meaning in the flavor that people start recognizing. And it's going to happen slowly. But in the meantime, recognizing that sexuality was made profane in order to degrade it, to create mental mind F's, that would then people would make them more susceptible to suggestion, because the third chakra is your willpower. The mastery of the third chakra equals freedom. However, before you're able to master them, you have to be able to use your free will. And then what is your free will other than your ability to perceive clearly and then apply your perception and your expectation through this clear sight. So the free will universe isn't very free if you can't even see what you want to see happen. So all that's tied in together somehow. I'm going to string it together. Eventually write a blog post or include that in one of my books. But that's good stuff, right? So it's mine. It's mine. Don't take it. I wanted you to enjoy, though, and know that this is sort of the thing that I'm weaving into my book. And now also talking about with you guys now. So, yeah, I have a channel now. Originally I was going to educate, but now I'm going to be a comedian and promote my book. And I'm not really funny, but I'm kind of funny, you know. I can honestly say I'm kind of funny. I know you would agree. If you've watched enough of my videos, you would agree. All right, all for now. I'm taking notes on life. I hope you are too. And scratch that itch. If you got an itch, scratch it. Just not against me. Not unless, you know, I'm backing into you and all that, and you're my boyfriend, and I've known you for like at least a year. How do you turn this off? Okay, there we go.